Nova Kooks.
Hello. We need just a few moments of your time.
The next thing, we're good, yeah.
Oh yeah, no, nothing. I was just making a noise and forgot it's being recorded. So shooby-dooby-doo, let's keep going.
Sure,
Right. Hey.
Thanks for listening to Nova Kooks.
Yeah, not so easy, huh?
Yes.
Oh man.
That's right.
You got your ears on?
Little Hen says it's time to rock and roll.
Welcome, listener. You're listening to Nova Kooks. We are four East Coast surfers that don't take ourselves too seriously when it comes to surfing or other things. Hence, the name, Nova Kooks. In this podcast, you're going to hear us talk about surfing on the East Coast of Canada and hear some funny surf stories from our inexperience along the way. Our podcast is meant to not only take you on our surf journey, but to also explore personal growth, adventure, and the world around us, including pop culture and other topics. Today's episode is a travel episode. We're going to hear from David about the time he spent in Costa Rica, where he lived for 3 months, and we're going to talk about what it was like to immerse himself in that type of surf culture. Then finish with describing a dream surf trip that is on each of our bucket lists. Then, of course, we'll finish the episode off with an always intriguing question from Charles. Before we begin, I am Jared, and I will be your host. I'm seated with Charles, Josh, and David. Hey, guys.
Hey, Jared.
Hey.
Hello.
Woo.
I have several questions I want you to consider.
To start off the episode, our warm-up question is, if you could go back and give your 18-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
I can go.
All right, Josh, go for it, man.
My 18-year-old self, I'd have a little mental health moment and I'd say, young fella, you're good enough.
Nice. You're good enough. Yeah.
I could say a lot of other things, but that's the one I'm going to
That's the one thing. If it was one thing, yeah. Charles.
In terms of a piece of advice for my younger self, I think something that's kind of the ethos of this podcast is just kind of go out and try things and don't think too much about it. But if I was to give my younger self one piece of advice and kind of general advice for, I think, anybody, is that if there's a funeral that you're kind of on the fence about going to, you should probably go to that. That's something that I think about. Because if you're kind of going back to your younger self and kind of certain regrets, I remember when I was younger, if someone had passed away, I would find that a bit awkward, as we all find death awkward. But I think it's important to show up for people in those scenarios.
And wear a suit.
And wear a suit, yes.
Yeah.
We were talking about that the other day. That
Wear a suit, yeah.
Yeah, like, you know how you get that old man sage advice?
Uh-huh.
My grandfather told my dad once, and my dad passed it to me. When in doubt, if you're talking about a funeral or a fancy event, a wedding, or graduation, you wear a suit.
That's funny. I've been thinking about that for a few events that I've been to recently, and it's like you'll never feel bad for overdressing for something, but you will regret underdressing for certain. It's like you'll never feel bad about overdressing, in my opinion. Unless you're wearing sort of a Dumb and Dumber suit to, a baby blue or some ruffles. But
I mean, wear what you got. Maybe.
If you're confident,
I'm not saying
if
it
you are
makes
confident enough to wear that baby blue ruffled,
you'd win. You'd win, no question about it.
do it.
And I'm not saying, you have to be the best looking dressed person at a place. But if you have the option, you've got a suit in the closet and you've got not a suit in the closet, or they're both sitting there, I say put the suit on and go.
I like that.
Yeah, I'm not saying the suit makes the person. I'm saying if you're wavering between, do I put the suit on or do I just wear jeans and a t-shirt?
yeah,
My advice is put the suit on and go.
yeah, it's like Barney Stinson always said:
Suit
up.
Suit up, baby.
Yeah. And if you don't have a suit, but you've got a shirt with buttons, start there.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
And tuck that puppy in.
Tuck that puppy right in.
What would your advice to your 18-year-old self be other than wear a suit?
Right. I think, and this is sort of, youth is wasted on the young sort of a deal, but I think I would tell myself, the 18-year-old self, that time moves pretty quickly. So, make use of time. And that's hard to tell an 18-year-old because your perception of time and your the value that it has.
Yeah, you can't even tell an 18-year-old that they're still developing.
I know it's very strange.
You're still growing. You're still forming who you are.
Yeah. And I think I say that because at 18, like I was like, man, life is incredible. Like you're thinking of probably a lot of superficial things and how free a lot of things are, and maybe that's a privileged way of thinking. But I remember also, being like 21, 22 and, I had some friends who were a little more planned out and kind of using their time maybe quote unquote a little more efficiently than I did. And me going, they were thinking about this time a little differently than I was. And I'm not saying one is better than the other, but I remember being like, wow, that was valuable time. Am I making use of this the best way I can?
Well, that leads right to what I would say, because I think about this a lot, especially when I was young. I was very career driven. I knew exactly what I wanted at the time, and I would say take a year to myself, because I went right into school full force with working so hard. I went to music school where, I had to practice my instrument 3 hours a day on top of all the course load. And I feel like that would have been a beneficial thing for me personally, just to, get away from home, because I went to university in my hometown, and get away from home and do, make sure that it was right and be ready for it, rather than work.
Yeah, I get that.
Where do I begin?
Moving into our next section, we want to talk about Costa Rica and living that surf culture for an extended period of time. Ironically, we just sort of were talking about this in our warm-up question, taking that time. And David,
yeah,
that's sort of a part of your story. So why don't you start off and just tell us a little bit about your time in Costa Rica, what brought you there, what your day-to-day was like.
Yeah, sure.
Talk about surfing a bit, and then maybe after we'll ask you some questions.
Yeah, and fire away with any questions. So the sort of the reason, and it wasn't strategic, but it fits naturally with the answer to your first question about what advice, because like you, I kind of wasn't really taking myself very seriously in my late teens, and just ended up at university, but with no real value on what I was doing there or plan per se, and I did not take it very seriously, and I was kind of aimlessly trying to figure out, I'd done fairly well in high school, and I just all of a sudden that doesn't fly when you're not focused and committed. And so I reached a point when I hit 20 of kind of bouncing from program to program and trying to figure it out. And I kind of said, wow, this is a lot of money, and I'm really not getting the experience that I feel like I should. And I don't know where it's going. So, it was not a very popular decision with my family, although they're probably the most supportive people I've ever been around. But I had to really talk through that.
Well, education was important to your family. Your mother was a teacher, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was they wanted to ensure that this wasn't, it. I'm going to, take off, and be on the beach and not have, and
did you just like wrap up a semester and then decide like after the semester finishes I'm gonna go
luckily at the time I had a roommate and he was a little more committed and thoughtful in what he was doing, so he had finished and he was like, I'm done. And we used to surf together, and he was like, I'm going to Costa Rica. And And
What year of university was this? How close
so this
to
would for me, he did it in 3 years. I think he did. He must have done a Bachelor of Science. I think he did a 3-year one.
Okay.
So he just like pounded away, like, summer, like he just was ready to go. And then he finished. He's like, let's go. Like, I'm going. And I just was at a point, I was like, I need to do something. So he was the right guy to go with because I trust him. He's just a solid person who, like, you're not going to go somewhere and they're going to flake on you, or I was like, this is a good travel buddy to go with. So, and then it happened that a girl that he was friends with also wanted to go. And then a coworker at a restaurant I was working at was like, I'm going too. So the four of us got in the kitchen of my folks' house. They reluctantly, probably looking back on it, I haven't really talked to them since, they kind of gave us their blessing and we packed bags. And this is, around the time when you couldn't hop on Google as well as we can now and plot it out. But we kind of knew where there was the capital city. That's where you go. And then we just kind of looked for the beaches and surf mags. We had a few ideas and some people we knew had gone and done it. So it was there was a lot of unknowns. And
I feel like it's way
went.
more accessible to go there now. There's so many surf retreats and
yeah, I assume. I mean, and there was a lot there then once you got there, but now I'm sure you could log in and there'd be surf camps. There'd probably be lots of places to stay and you could set it all up. So that's kind of how it came about. And it was we went for 3 months and with no real plan on how long we wanted to stay in one area. Obviously it's a big country, or if we want to stay on the Pacific coast or the Caribbean coast. We just, all of a sudden we were in the capital city of San Jose with our bags and ready to go. So the surf adventure started.
And what happened? Did you go from place to place, or did you find a place to stay? Did you work to earn your way there? Like what was it like there?
Yeah. So we didn't work at all. However, we probably should and could have. The first thing we did is we wanted to go to this one beach town that we had heard of. And turns out it's sort of a little bit a big surf town, but also a little bit of a United States college sort of spring break destination.
That's why you heard about it.
So we went to a place called Hako, and that luckily is where there was a ton of surf shops. You could buy used boards that people, leave before they hop back on their plane or etc. So that's where we picked up our surfboards, and then again, like no smartphones in the pocket, just happened upon this mini resort, and the owner was out front, and turns out he was from Victoria, BC, Canada. Yeah. So, Canadians, you just kind of, he's like, yeah, come on in. And it was off season. We chose the off season kind of it was shoulderish. And he was like, come on in, gave us a great deal with, we had the swim up. There was not a swim up room, but there was the swim up bar and a pool, and it was right on the beach. And I'll never forget that first night of, you're in a little bit of culture shock. You're in this place. You don't really know how you got there or why it was allowed to have happened.
Tired from travel.
A little bit tired.
Adrenaline.
Yeah. And the sun's setting. So you grab your surfboard and you get the leash on, wax it up, and you paddle out into this warm ocean. And, linking to a session we had around December, I remember we're catching waves and there were dolphins in the distance in the sun setting. And anyway, a nice baptism into that world. And then from there, we really had no plan. We stayed probably a week there. Then we went to another place we'd heard of, Tamarindo, which also there's like 4 to 6 surf breaks right around it and a beautiful surf culture. And again, just kind of asking around, we found an apartment, dirt cheap. There was, and I'm not saying this because it's a necessity or, it's definitely privileged, but like we'd our house was cleaned every day, and we were spending nothing.
Well,
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah. Do you mind me asking, like,
Yeah.
a little bit about like how did you guys finance this?
Yeah.
Was it student loans? Was it?
I'll be honest, and this speaks to this speaks to the support that my family has given me, and I'm not saying monetarily, but in this case, it's going to sound like it. I think I had a Canada savings bond that, from when I was a child, that I think had a value of just under $1,500. And I remember my mom saying, like, you know what, it's your choice, but you can have this Canada savings bond
That we've saved for you, kind of
that
thing?
we've saved for you. It's up to you. And, of course, at that point, you're like, yeah, like, let's go. So, and to be completely honest, that $1,500 paid for 3 months of very good living
Nice.
in Costa Rica, which I think back on now, I'm like, wow, because, we weren't living in, a butlered mansion on the beach, but we were safe. Like, it was
lucked out.
safe. We had a kitchen.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure your parents probably appreciated, like, if you were going to go on a journey like that, to know that you were able to be safe too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And there were hostels. Like, we could have done it cheaper even still, but we budgeted it out pretty well.
Yeah.
And once we were in Tamarindo, that was it. We settled into a surf lifestyle.
wow. What was that like? What's the day to day?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask there, just because I mean, it seems like the purpose of the trip was like, all right, this is gonna be like 3 months of surfing, and I'm just kind of curious, like, what is that experience to kind of really dedicate yourself to it, and like how you progressed, and what that whole experience was like for you.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. The progression was amazing. Like I'm so jealous that you had that time to focus. The consistency of swell and waves is one thing. Like, when the weather was fine, and what I mean is, when it rains there, it washes all the stuff into the ocean, and you don't want to go in. That's sort of the biggest factor.
What do you mean, like, washes stuff? Like, is it
There's
muddy
a lot
or
of
is
farming and a lot of cattle, and so the rain is. You're not so angry about rain. You're already wet. What it is the bacteria that gets in the water after a rain. That's when you get the ear infections, eye infections, nose infections. So it was more that.
Did you guys experience any of that?
I did not, but some of the people that we traveled with definitely did, and we learned very quickly. Like,
was that really bad, or did that?
I mean,
pass?
it was. I think it would pass, and there was a doctor in town that was kind of
used to this. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was kind of, those experiences were all very funny. It was very matter of fact. If you could catch the doctor in time and get some, ear drops or eye drops, and then you just stay out of the water for a bit. I think I somehow managed to make it through without any having to stop.
So aside from the rainy days, what was a day to day like?
Day to day. So again, we'd pick up some groceries. So, and then the other thing too, the walk on the way down to the beach, there was bananas growing in the trees. So a lot of the time, like, you grab a banana out of the tree, you
Meal
go
and
surf.
a peel.
Yeah, exactly. And, of course, and the fun part too, Costa Rica, wonderful biodiversity. There'd be also like monkeys in the trees, so cool. It was a magical place. But day to day, the dream was we'd wake up, we'd have a couple eggs, we'd get our rash guards on, get the sunscreen on, because, unfortunately we did the sort of North American heading down south, like, incredible burn those first few days, just went for it. Not to sound irresponsible, but it was. Anyways, and so have some breakfast, get down to the beach, and then honestly, it was like we would be in the ocean for 3-4 hours.
Nice.
Just surf. And then come in, maybe have a little sandwich, like a little snack, and then right back out. Like, we would surf 6 to 7 hours a day.
Yeah. Wow.
That's crazy.
And so incredible. So obviously you're getting that much reps in. You're learning all the time, and you're getting strong. That's the thing. You get so strong, and after a week or two, you're just like, you can go all day. You're ready to go. Like the stamina, the paddle strength, and we were like, we weren't trying to be. It was just happened. We were just shredded. Like there was no way we could put weight on with the amount of calories we were burning.
To be young.
I know. And then it was like, it's 4 or 5. Go back to the apartment, have a nice shower. We'd cook a nice meal. And then, and I feel like this is the way, this is a lot of places. So it's not specifically down south, but it was like everyone would just go to the beach at sunset and you'd sit there and say goodbye to the day. And then by that time we were probably so wrecked from just surfing so much.
Yeah.
Hit the sack, and then we'd wake up and do the same thing again.
Did you set any goals in terms of like your surfing while you were down there?
I mean, I wanted to just kind of see how good I could get. Now, this is going to link in with a previous podcast where we talk about surf equipment. I chose an awful surfboard. I chose superficially a cool looking surfboard.
So did you buy a board down there?
Yeah, that's right. We all did.
So you weren't renting, you like decided on a board to buy it.
Yeah.
Was there a local shop in town or was this the first place you went, you bought a board right away? Or?
Yeah, in Hako, we got one. We just went straight over and got them. And it's almost like a little economy down there. Like really, like people are just leaving them behind because you don't want to.
Was it a used board you got?
Oh yeah, all used boards.
What was it?
It was a 6'4". Daniel was the shaper. It was I talked about this in a previous one. It's like super thin,
right?
Super like not wide, like really narrow, huge rocker. So great for if you're like weigh not much and are super great at popping up quick and you're ready to roll. But if it was like mushy or not huge, boy, it was a lot of paddling.
But that goes to something that I've spoken about before. My first board that I owned, whenever I would previous to owning a board, I would ride long boards, but I had thought that, well, I'm at a stage I can probably do okay. I didn't get a short board. I got a fun size board. What is it? My board is like
it's like a 7.6 or something.
7.6, I think you're right. Yeah, thank you. I'm terrible with remembering the numbers. But I found that like I was working harder all the time, and I would watch Charles on his longboard when we were all sort of getting really into this. And I found that it was grueling, but I got stronger pretty quick because we had a day at Martinique where we switched boards, and for some reason we hadn't switched boards till 9 months into surfing, and then we switched boards. And it was funny because Charles was able to surf mine quite well and felt like really good about surfing a smaller board. But to go with what you're saying is I find that I was riding this smaller board the whole time, and the second I got on a longer board, my skills were there. My muscles were like totally ready for it. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? So it's almost like this weird, for me, I find it's not recommended, but it was this weird like counterintuitive thing that happened. Did you find that like you did benefit from having a shorter board because you had to fight?
Oh, listen, I mean, I've never been as strong. Obviously, it forced me to work on balance, knowing where to be, because it was a skateboard. Like, in my opinion, like it was totally maneuverable. But I keep. And I don't look back with any sort of regret. But if I had gone there with sort of like a surfboard that I have now, my wave count would have been, to a factor of 10.
And the surfboard that you have now is like a fun board, right?
Yeah. And one of the guys we went with, he had never surfed ever. So this was his sort of like, I'm going to Costa Rica and I'm going to learn to surf. And he got like probably a proper fun board, like 8 feet,
Yeah.
lots of float, no rocker, like, and I don't think I even tried to take it out once, and I'm kicking myself because I think the fun factor in terms of the surfing in the water would have went way up. Now, obviously, I wouldn't have had to work as hard, and I wouldn't have been strong. But I'm at the point now. I want as much time standing up and fun on the wave than paddling on the wave. I mean, I'll take the paddling on the wave over no wave, but that's just kind of where I am now.
Did I already ask, do you still have this board or did you leave it there?
I actually still have this board. I was like, man, it just was, it's so, it just makes me think, it's so nostalgic when I see it now. And I've got some great pictures of me when I was surfing with it. But now what it is, it's the perfect board to do what we call scurfing. So we'll water ski on a surfboard. And so that's the board I use now, and it's all yellowed and the fiberglass is sort of deteriorating. But
Love marks.
It's the perfect scurf board now. So it still has life and it's still rolling, which is nice.
You once told me a really cool story about a wave that you enjoyed catching down there, that you could ride forever, and someone would have to like pick you up down the road.
Yeah.
Was this near the place, like the apartment that you rented, or was this at a different spot?
No, we had to do a road trip there. That was Playa Pavones. And if you look it up, and there's some great YouTube clips of this wave, it goes and goes and goes. And as we know, when you surf a wave, like let's say Martinique,
Yeah.
and you catch a really nice wave, that wave is what? 10 seconds in duration
most.
Yeah.
You know, like, and in our minds you're like,
You're there forever. Yeah.
you know,
But-
slow motion and the music's playing and you're yelling because we're kooks.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
the next time you can get on YouTube, check out Playa Pavones in Costa Rica. This point break, I think they time it and it goes for minutes, like and not like virtual minutes. You can serve a wave for minutes.
Well, this reminds me, the reason why we talked about this is because I think you and I discovered that you could surf the tidal bore here in Nova
Yeah.
Scotia. We have the
Oh, really?
tallest.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
We should totally try to do that.
The four of us should totally.
It's on the vision board.
Yeah, that's a long
It's on the vision board.
day, but it's not a big wave, but you could ride it for like an hour or something ridiculous.
Novelty wave.
Yeah, you'd have to have, I think that it would be beneficial to have somebody on like a jet ski with you or something to like help tow you back in.
Yeah, you don't want to miss that wave.
You miss it and it's done. There's
We
one.
could be like the big wave surfers and get pulled on it.
That'd be nice. Yeah, you could do that.
Well,
We can use your little motorboat that you, if you get one.
if I get one. Yeah,
We
he has
should-
a motorboat.
We got to invite Ben Gravy up.
That would be so cool. He loves to surf everything. So this guy Ben Gravy on YouTube, he's like part of he's a pro surfer, but he rides soft tops. It's not Catch Surf, but it's like their sub company. I can't remember the name of his board.
He'll come to me.
But Jamie O'Brien's partner Tina rides for the same company. Why can't I think of it? If only there was a fact checker.
Wait, no. I almost said Wave Storm. Sorry, folks.
Wave Bandit.
There you go.
Wave Bandit. They ride for Wave Bandit. And anyway, this guy, he's doing right now a tour, or did a tour. No, he did a tour and has made a video of riding every state.
Yep.
So he's ridden a wave in every state. So whether it be like a riverboat creating a wake, or if it's like a river wave that's naturally happening, like it does here in Canada and in Montreal, there's like a popular one.
I would assume he's hit a tidal bore somewhere.
Oh, well,
But if not,
we should call him up.
Mr. Gravy.
Wow, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I've seen videos there where he's catching like fairy waves.
Yeah, and he also will. I think I wonder if some of his. I think some of the states that he did it in were wave pools, because I know that he got like Casey Neistat and Jamie O'Brien. There was a bunch of them there one day. I think it was all of them. And they, this video I saw, there was a closed down, like swim club or something, and they got the wave going. So I'm wondering if that was a part of it now that I know he made the movie. Anyway, digression.
Yeah, so I mean, it was a dream trip. It was a dream trip. It was incredible, and then we would do excursions to see the volcanoes. We tented on beaches. We slept under volcanoes in rental cars. We took, I think the statute of limitations will absolve us from this one. We took a Toyota Corolla, which we rented right down a riverbed. Like some of the places we served, you should not take a Toyota Corolla. Let's just put it to you that way. We traveled around. It felt really funny because we couldn't just pop up on our smartphone. We didn't have it. This was the trip I had the Sony Walkman with the 2 analog speakers and we had 2 tapes. It just felt like we were...
would this have been like 2000, 2001 or something?
Well, so it would have been 23 years ago.
99.
The year was 1999.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's when I was 18.
Yeah.
It's crazy. What was your, slightly off the surfing topic, but I'm curious. What was the name of the thing that you would always go to eat if you went out? Like, what was your thing that still sticks in your head?
For food or?
Yeah, food.
Yeah. There was
remember.
Incredible food. I think the food that I remember the most, and we ate a lot of typical meals, a lot of the beans and, rice and chicken, that's probably what you would get at like walking down the street. But there was this one place run by surfers from San Clemente, California, and they had, it was sort of more North American food.
Okay.
And, So most of our meals were like grilled cheeses at home, or was it toad in the hole when he put the egg in the
hole?
Yeah, egg in the hole.
Yeah.
Sorry, that makes more sense. But there was that one day. No, never mind. No, like we'd eat a lot of like stuff at home. Like we really tried to like keep it cheap on that end.
Yeah.
But there was this one place, and they had this. They called it the Surfer's Breakfast. And there was nothing like heading to this restaurant, and they had Costa Rican coffee, like you could smell it, and it was open air, like al fresco in the jungle, and it was like huevos rancheros. It was like all like the breakfast food that you want when you're just calorie deprived, and coffee and
Nice.
Hash browns and just bacon, and it was called the Surfer's Breakfast, and I can smell it right now when I think about it. And it just, that was our treat. Like
Surfer's Delight.
Surfer's Delight, exactly. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Next, please.
On to the next section. Because we're talking about traveling to Costa Rica, let's talk really quickly about what would an ideal surf trip, like what would be a location for you, Charles?
I mean, I would love the opportunity to just kind of like go away for a couple of weeks to whether it be like down south and somewhere, just kind of like, dedicate that time to surfing. But something that would actually be more meaningful for me would be, so I lived in Ireland for, I'm trying to think, it was 1.5 years or 2 years. And while I was there, I also would have known that you could surf over there, but it's nothing that I ever checked out. But I'd love to go back to Ireland someday anyway. And I would love to just surf in Ireland. Like,
They have some big wave surfing there too.
Not looking for like, an incredible wave or anything like that, just to have been in the ocean and surfed in Ireland. It would mean something to me.
That's cool. I like that. Josh.
I don't think it would be anything crazy. Like, probably just what has been put in front of me. Like, I feel like I should surf in Hawaii at some point.
Right.
Like, and again, a lot of the trips I have planned in my mind, which I've yet to do, are not necessarily around surfing. So, like, if I were to plan a surf trip, I think I'd go with like what I know is going to deliver. Although I don't think I could surf Hawaiian waves. They might be a little too big.
Oh, there's different spots. Dave.
I'm gonna.
I'm pointing at you, but
yeah. I mean, in my opinion, for some reason, I've got a boat trip on my mind. Like living on a boat, eating on a boat, fishing, fresh fish from the boat and grilling that, jumping off the boat to a surf break right there.
Cool.
Maybe, the swell direction's not great. Let's go around the other side of the island. Let's go to the leeward side. When I watch movies of surf trips or, like pro surfers on a surf trip and they're just sitting around playing cards and jumping off the boat. And, I'm like, wow, like a week would feel like a month,
yeah.
I don't know, just fully immersed.
I've heard about guys talking about that type of trip. Isn't there something similar to that in like Indonesia or something you can do?
Yeah. Like just charter a big boat.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I would go on that trip.
Yeah.
If you want to go.
You should come.
I've been thinking about that a lot lately. I've been wanting to get a boat on the south shore of Nova Scotia because there's all these little spots that I bet you there's amazing surf that just people don't normally go to because it's on the other side of like an island,
Yep.
Yeah. That's a cool idea. For me personally, part of the reason I brought this up is because I feel like I'm about to go live it. I've always wanted to surf in Southern California, and ironically, Josh and I have the opportunity. I'm dragging Josh along in a little while here to actually go and experience this. And we really lucked out because we're staying at an Airbnb that actually has surfboards there that we can use whenever we want in Huntington Beach, and we're gonna go and do some lessons in Huntington Beach. It's gonna be pretty awesome. It's kind of like the right moment. COVID is done. We've saved some money from not traveling, and it's just like this right time in our life. We're gonna go do it, and that's been something on my bucket list since I started surfing because we've talked about Point Break on the show here, and I feel like it just is a rite of passage for me, Jared, to go to Southern California and try those waves.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they're terrible, good, the time of year, it doesn't matter. I need to experience that firsthand. Beach culture, surfing.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's going to be a cool trip. We're going to Joshua Tree to do some
oh wow,
very beginner climbing, but
good for
you would love it, David.
I don't think I've talked about it on the podcast, but I do have an obsession with climbing documentaries and things like that. So
yeah,
Nice.
this is a big one for me.
Alex Honnold and
I follow a lot of Jimmy Chin and the stuff he's doing. So pretty pumped.
I think that does a good job of tidying up all of the stuff we wanted to talk about for our travel episode. The next thing, we're good, yeah?
Oh, yeah, no, nothing. I was just making a noise and forgot it's being recorded. So, shooby-dooby-doo, let's keep going.
Sure, boo.
Right. Hey.
So it's that time again for the always intriguing final question from Charles. Take it away, Charles.
This is Charles.
Okay, this week's question. If you wanted to understand who you are and how you are perceived, what would be more valuable? Experiencing your interactions with others or watching video of your interactions with others?
Okay.
Who
and
wants
Charles
to go
is
first?
just video, right? No audio, just video?
No, there's audio
It's
with
the
the
whole
video.
experience.
So you
Good
can
question.
watch the whole experience.
I assumed,
That changes my answer.
assumed there was audio, so excellent clarification.
David?
My initial instinct, and I'm going to be long-winded. I'm sorry, I'm taking up a lot of airspace here.
It's all right,
today.
I'll chop you up.
Thank goodness.
all about
I'm
Dave.
going to need to be chopped up. My initial instinct, right off the bat, was love to see the video of me because, and this is why I asked if the audio is there or not. I feel like, other than this podcast, and maybe other people disagree with me, I usually don't talk that much, but I feel like my body language and the way that I react to things probably speaks a lot about how I feel about certain things or certain people in a way. But I've kind of rejigged that, and through our conversations tonight, I realized that there's nothing greater than the experience, and with no judgment attached, just doing it, learning about it, and that's how you see who you are in these moments. And who you are in that moment doesn't mean that's who you are for every moment. But I just feel like you have to experience everything, the good, the bad.
Well said.
I feel like the experience is the, sort of the journey, and that's what I'm going with.
Right. Cool.
I like that.
Anyone want to go next?
I'll go because it's in direct contrast to that.
Perfect.
So I totally agree with that, and I'm all about the experience. Totally agree. For me, I would like to see the video, because I would like to have the opportunity to observe that interaction or that social, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's a whole bunch of people there. There's 10 people in my video. And I would like to be able to observe that because I'd like some perspective on the way I interpret things in my life. And you can create your own reality, and you can create your own reality in your mind. And I'd like an opportunity to see if I've gotten it wrong, because I think that could be an opportunity to reshape how I move through my life moving forward. Because, there's tons of things that get caught up in perceptions and anxieties and all that kind of thing. And I'd like to have a little snippet of that and see it, and then go back to my life of experiences and moving through it in that way.
Maybe an outside perspective, some potential objectivity there. So,
I think we're all, three musicians, and I'm sure you've done different things for prepping a speech or something, but I've seen videos of myself playing guitar or other things, and I'm like, I didn't realize I did that or whatever. So it's it's interesting. Or I didn't realize I sounded like that. Or, I thought that I wasn't engaging today. And then if I see a video where somebody tells me hey, you were on point, it's sometimes that perspective shift is important. So I'd like to see the video.
Cool. Jared?
Yeah, sorry. I got three things to say.
Okay.
Thing one is I remember my cousin. He was, when he was younger, he was quite a accomplished photographer. He had a couple galleries and stuff. So I would say that's accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember we went on a hike to Franny in Cape Breton, Mount Franny, and in the Highlands. Beautiful, beautiful hike. A short one, manageable. Anyway, I remember my father asking, because Christopher at the time was at the height of his photography career at the time. And I remember asking him, or my dad asked, why don't you have your camera? Why aren't you going to take pictures of this? This is amazing. And Christopher said something really profound at the time for someone in their young 20s. He was like, well, I want to keep this for me. And he pointed to his head. I'm taking pictures up here today. I don't want to worry about that. I want to live in this moment. So that makes me sort of think that in a way I don't want to see. I don't want to have regrets. I don't want to look back. But for the sake of the question, I feel like I think of this really great Canadian TV show that happened about 10 years ago on CBC called Being Erica, where she went to this therapist. Have any of you guys seen this show?
I remember it. I didn't watch it, but I do recall it.
So she makes mistakes in her life, or has a big breakup, kind of like a little crisis in her life, and then she goes to this therapist, and the therapist ends up being able to send her back in time into her body to re-experience these moments. And I found that concept so interesting. But I would want to do the video. This is my third thing, the video. I would say the video, because I had an experience with the video. When I was in music education school, I got to do a conducting class where I got to conduct a lab band. So that's other music students that were learning a different instrument than their main instrument. And I got to be the conductor. And I had to do, I think, 1 or 2 songs. And there was a camcorder set up in the back. And then in my class, there was 3 other students in the class. It was similar to like a master's class, really. The 3 of us would sit in this room with our professor and analyze this video of us conducting. And it's like instrumental conducting. So you're like moving your hand up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And you know, talking about how, you know, when you're in an intense moment of the song, you're being commanding and you got to change the look on your face. And can you conduct, and we did all these exercises where can you conduct them without your hands? And I found it really hard to watch, especially with people commenting off on the sidelines, because, you know, they're like, Jared, you got to pretend that you're a jerk in that part of the song. And I'm like, I don't have it in me, guys. And I learned a lot about myself, but I also I don't know if I liked it. It was awkward. It was weird. And it sends me back to what I said about my cousin. Like, I think experiencing moments as you're supposed to experience them is good. Maybe, like, I see the benefits of the camera, but maybe leave it. Maybe leave it all. No regrets. That was long. I'm sorry.
No, that's a great answer.
That was good.
I would say for myself, and kind of similar to the sentiment that you're ending with there, like I would definitely see the value of watching video of myself in interactions with people to kind of get a more objective view of like how I act or how I am perceived. I would find that quite painful to watch. I wouldn't want to live there.
It is.
But I could see it being hugely beneficial. Because something we were kind of like just discussing kind of when we were talking around this, your question was sort of like, you know, even if like with your surfing, if you saw a video of like your surfing and kind of the mistakes you were making, you could easily critique those. So there's certain things where in terms of like how you're interacting with people, you could be like, oh, wow, like my body language or whatever, like it's really not, I'm not coming across the way that I intend. So you could potentially tweak yourself that way.
I like that.
But then you could get like so in your head about
this one thing that you're doing.
Exactly, in reviewing things. So I definitely see the value, you know, I want to live like in the experience, but I see the value of kind of like stepping outside of it and using video to improve things, or like even, you know, listening back to this podcast and like how I speak has been an interesting experience. But then there's the other thing, and I think it's like, what is it? The Looking Glass Self, the psychologist, like Cooley, that basically says like how we come up with our identity is basically our perception of how we're perceived by others. So perhaps if you, I don't know, have some strong emotional intelligence and are receptive to how people perceive you, maybe you can kind of get it all there without watching the video.
That's great. That's an awesome question.
Great question.
When you first asked, I was like, this is going to get weird, but that was fantastic.
No, great answers.
Thanks, Charles. All right. Thanks for listening. We've been the Nova Kooks. I've been your host, Jared Gates.
David Roger here.
Charles.
And Josh Hyde.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for listening to Nova Kooks. Join us next time for more kooky surf moments, beginner surf tips, music and movie talks, questions from Charles, and don't forget to follow us on Instagram. Thanks and be well.
You are Charles, though.
Oh, thank God.